I guess I have to agree to this.
Oh, hello, y'all, we're here. And it's funny because this is, as Elizabeth said that, it's reminding me of the very first episode I recorded where Zoom started talking to you. And I was like, oh, she talks now. Oh, hi. So it's good to be here doing this episode. As we're doing this, it's September 30th. It's summer to fall transition. People are setting into school schedules, all of that. So y'all, if you've been wondering where I've been, I was just having a tough time scheduling with people. So breakthroughs are abundant over here. I did not try to force anything. I just said, how about we take a few weeks off? So here we are. I'm Jen with The Bold Thing. And this is an episode of Living a Bold Life. And I have with me Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, is it Elizabeth Abowd? Is that how you say it?
It's Abowd, yes. Abowd. The A with the line over it, long or short, one of those.
Love it. So if you are returning and watching this, thanks for being here. Wouldn't have anything to show if there weren't people to watch. And if you're new to this, don't let the title fool you. Living a bold life looks how you say it looks. Sometimes boldness is big, grand leaps. Sometimes boldness is, yep, I'm going to get out of bed today. Sometimes boldness is, no, I'm going to put a boundary up. Boldness can be in all things. And the people that I bring on this show are people that I know and people that I just see out there making an impact, putting their best foot forward, taking care of people. And that is how Elizabeth is here today. And so I'm really excited to read her bio to you because
it gets read.
It's fun. It's one that I don't hear all the time. So just to give you an idea of who I'm with right now, I'm pausing for a second. Did I hear a clicking sound? Is it your microphone?
That was my mouth, apparently.
Listening to see. I'll let y'all know if I hear it again. People ask if I edit these. I'm like, why would I? They're so fun. Absolutely not.
Yes.
Y'all see all of it. So
yes.
Bios are hard to write, and they are. And Elizabeth does not like to do hard things that involve writing. Her brain will only engage when she takes an alternative route to accomplish a hard task, such as writing a self-aware bio in third person. Perhaps it is this creative approach to avoidance that has led her to do many different and interesting things, like managing multi-sensory rooms in residential facilities, being a UX consultant on an open source tech project, or getting up close to birds of prey as a volunteer at her local Rafter Center. Elizabeth has attention deficit / hyperactivity disorder, the combined type, and she's using that lived experience for good as a licensed clinical social worker, aka a therapist who focuses on ADHD. She recently departed from the neurotypical work world and opened her own private practice, Vibrant Creative Life Solutions. And then wherever you are watching this, ways that you can follow Elizabeth, get to know her better by what she's putting out there, reach out, whatever, they will be there. And I love the bio because it's super authentic. And I also love the bio because I can tell by reading it that you do your work and you walk the talk.
Yes. I don't really have a choice, I feel, which I can get into later, on how I have to be who I am. Otherwise, it's not a good time. Yeah,
that's a great.
Really how. Sorry, I just have to say, self-brag. I didn't read that out loud, but I'm a pretty good writer. You know.
I love that you said that because, you know, I had a moment where I was like, do I really need to read the bios when whoever's watching this can see it in the copy? Well, one, I do, because everyone reads the copy. And two, so many of my guests have said, wow, I've never been there when someone's read my bio. I feel amazing about myself right now.
I know.
I got like a confidence boost by being here. So I keep
like, oh, who's that? I'd like to
Yeah.
hang out with her. Cool.
Yes. I was wondering if you were getting that feedback. So I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to like in college, I did a lot of campus activities and I introed all of our guests, like the musicians, magicians, comedians and stuff like that, because no one else in the group would do it. And I got so used to like talking about other people. It's kind of fun to hear myself get hyped.
Right? Yes.
I like it.
I love it. So y'all, you know the drill. We tend to kind of follow a handful of questions because people start organically going there while they're answering the other one anyway. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sometimes we sneak in other little stuff because again, at the heart of it, this is rooted in flow and in fun and just going wherever we go. And so I'm super excited to hear what you are planning on sharing. Because again, everyone that comes on here, they have more than one bold move, right? Because we know how it is. When we start doing bold things that make us a little nervous, they get easier and we keep doing them.
Yes.
So Elizabeth, for you, and it may be the stuff you already thought about, or you might be like, I'm gonna get crazy and change my mind in the moment. Some people do that.
Off book is not good for me.
We'll keep it on the books, y'all. On the books.
We'll see.
So for you, what is one of the boldest or bolder moves that you feel called to share in this moment?
So I went to a really unique high school for my junior and senior year. It's a public residential high school for the arts, and there's only room for like 242 students across the state of South Carolina. So it's like a big deal. But that's not the bold move. The bold move was that I actually went back to school my senior year with the intention to not become an actor, which is what I was there for. And I didn't keep the decision secret. I told my teachers as soon as I returned to school, I was like, I can't pretend. That would not be good to pretend. I'm not very good at lying, even though I was school for an actor, long story. But lying about myself was not something that I wanted to do. So I met with the drama faculty, which was terrifying, and told them that while I could not possibly return to regular normal person school, could not do that. And, being an artist was so important to me that I had no intention of becoming an actor. And the chair of the department explained to me, well, the taxpayers of South Carolina expect you to become an actor. So even though I wasn't going to be an actor, I had to work like everyone else in my studio, which meant doing lots of BFA program prep for acting. So auditions and headshots and resumes and monologues that would, for me, not end up becoming applications or auditions. And I was an actor, so I was an actor during the week, like an actor pretending to be an actor during the week. But on the weekends, I turned my room into the Abowd house of journaling, and I spent hours making personal art and exploring the expressive arts therapy stuff that I had been called to do, and invited my friends and made that art together, because I was like, all right, I have to be everyone was aware that I wasn't going to be an actor, which I feel like when I got good feedback in an acting class, good job, Abowd, and I'd be like, oh, guys, don't get mad. I'm sorry. Supposed to be the I'm not an actor. Don't give me good feedback. Tell me I suck. But I spent the rest of my time just diving into this art for myself and encouraging others to do the same. I didn't reach any ethical art therapy code or anything. We would just collaging in my bedroom for hours, and it was a wonderful way to not only explore that part of me, but also explore who I was on a really deep level, in a way that was accessible to me, as a human. So yeah, that's it was really bold because I was very young, and I don't think I had I had classmates who were probably on the fence, but they still sort of like were like, well, no, I'm here. I've worked so hard to get here. Like I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I can't. I can't do this. But I also can't go back to normal person high school because God knows I did not fit in there. If you can't tell, in this way the whole time.
I didn't enjoy that place either. If I had to go back, I would absolutely get a new travel agent. Not going back there. Well,
Yes.
yeah, and I feel like too, also, one, you were young, so we don't have that as many
Yeah.
tools and practice. And
Yeah.
two, very often when we're in like that special school, right? But only 200 and some got in. Don't you want to be here? Aren't you grateful? Like, that
Yes.
can happen. People can say stuff like that to us.
You
And
work so
again,
hard.
right,
And
right.
like as a teenager, 2 years is like eternity. And not to
Yeah,
mention, I've been working to get into that school. Like I worked in my ninth grade year to get into the summer program after that. And then I worked another year to get into the, I'm like, my entire high school career has been hinged on this decision. Like, this is who I am.
right,
Um,
right.
but it wasn't who I was. It was at one point, and I don't deny any of the past things that I've done. It's not, that's not who I am anymore. It's just that's who I was, and I was true to myself and what I wanted then. And I've grown. I'm a different person now, and I have different wants and different needs, and things are different. So I use that experience so much in my life. Like I wouldn't trade that experience ever. I mean, I just posted about going to governor school on my like business page, so you can read that on my Instagram, um, about my journey in the arts and how important that was. And so, like, yeah, I like had to do it. um, but yeah, that's where it led me.
Well, and also too,
Um,
as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, and you had that conversation, not even knowing if, I mean, at that point, for all you knew, you could have been being told like, well, I'm sorry, you have to go back to a regular classroom, right? You went not even knowing what the response would be, what results would be, and you still did it.
yeah, I honestly didn't know. And I think my backup plan, like knowing the manipulative little person I was back then, I would have had some fighting words to be like, well, this is an acting program. Don't you think that me acting like an actor would be the greatest challenge ever? And like, if you were a good acting school, then I should be able to do this just fine, right? But honestly, the pressure of not having to become an actor made it really easy to do a lot of the stuff because there wasn't any repercussions. Like if I messed up, I'm like, oh no, what's gonna happen? I'm not gonna become an actor.
Well, I don't want you anyway. Well,
Right.
you kind of already answered this, but you might have more to
Yeah.
elaborate. I mean, you're a therapist, you know how that
Yeah.
goes. Sometimes you keep asking and it's like, oh, there's more, there's more, there's
There's
more.
more.
So if we just kind of, again, either recap it or maybe there's more, but,
Yeah.
and you had already mentioned, it wasn't authentic, but for
Yeah.
many of us, there can sometimes be a push comes to shove moment
Yeah.
where we're like, that is it.
Yes.
I have to take this action right now. This cannot wait any longer.
Yes. So I have two answers for this. And you're going to laugh on a side note about what my first one is. Okay. So on like a universe level, it was honestly a divine intervention. I
Mm-hmm.
had a very clear and undeniable experience that revealed my calling, and it was not what I was doing at the time. Actually, it was. It was a project that I was doing, and the universe was like, that's what you're supposed to do, not this.
Mm-hmm.
But lest I power of now myself and give crappy, unattainable advice, shade intended to Eckhart, um, on a very human level, my stepdad, when I told, I like, first I had to tell my parents, which I feel like may have been more terrifying than the drama faculty. Because I asked my parents, like, hey parents, can I uproot my life and go live at a boarding school 2 years early? And I had already quit ballet a few years prior, and so I was like, ooh, am I just like queer? What is this? But my stepdad, actually, when I told them, I was like, hey guys, I got a calling from God, and like I need to change my direction in where I'm going. It is not this. It's actually this like field that has like very little research. I can't seem to find a lot. There's like 2 schools in the whole country that are doing that. I can find like programs, and like one in Switzerland and one way out in Colorado. So like 4 that I can name.
Wow.
They were kind of like, oh, okay. My mom's like, oh, but my stepdad, he said that he was glad that I was changing my mind about my career, and not because he didn't want me to become an actor, which maybe that was part of it, just tiny bit. Might have been a little glad, but he said it's because it meant that I was actually thinking about what I wanted instead of just going along with whatever I was doing.
Yes. Yes. I was thinking that actually when you were sharing earlier.
Yeah. And
That's not
to
super
get that,
typical in that age range. Maybe it is more now with the new generation, but in ours, it wasn't.
yeah,
Like kind of what have you been told? What do you speak?
yeah, because you've been working at this, and
Mhm.
like to get that sort of response, like I was going to like a very specialized school where like everyone is super laser focused on this like one path. Like you have to be a professional artist. And like I still think about that moment where he was like, well, I'm glad. I'm like, why are you glad? And he's like, well, because it means you're thinking about it. I'm like, huh, thinking about it and not just going along with things. Um, and like it was not only like just, it wasn't just okay to change my mind, but it was also like a good thing. And even with all the work I had done to get there, it was good. And I was like, okay, all right. And like it was the permission that I needed, I guess, not in the way to where like, well, we will allow you to do this. It was like, no, that's you're thinking and that's good. I was like, wow, okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, that's
there was
awesome.
the universe push that I can't just like bring into people's lives because I don't know how I did that.
Well,
It just
one,
happened. Yeah.
but you chose to listen, right? Because I would
Yeah.
venture to say people are having divine interventions all the time and they're not open to it. They're not trusting it. They're not believing
Yeah.
it. And tell your dad, and maybe he'll see this episode sometime if you share it with him. So I'll be like, Elizabeth's dad, I love you. Why?
Yeah.
Because I mean, parents are never going to do it perfect. There's no such thing, right? But that's a
Yeah.
really pivotal moment. And
Mm-hmm.
as you know, a coach who does a lot of pattern work, mindset work, that could have really created a context for you where it's not okay. You stay on course no matter what the cost. And
Right.
that was a pivotal milestone. And instead of having like a context given to you by someone, you were supported, you were encouraged. And because I bet if your dad would have handled that differently, it would have created some kind of little loop in there that wouldn't have made shifting as easeful for you as it might be now in those regards.
Yeah. And, my stepdad was the one that he paid for my first summer program. And it was like a big deal because, like, it wasn't the shared account. It was like he paid out of his like personal account for me to attend. And so I was like, wow, that's like really big for me that
Yeah.
he paid that. And so I was like, oh man, like now I'm going to this school, which by the way, shout out to Governor School, it is a public school. So students do not pay to attend. But they do pay to for food. That's the only thing they pay for. So summer program is also more a little bit more expensive, but like it's still a public school. So financial need is not part of the barrier.
That's great.
Um, Shout out. And but the fact that like I was like, I have to tell him that I'm not gonna do this anymore. Also, can they pay for me to go for the next year? But it's fine. It's fine. was a great school. And thankfully I got to stay there. Thank God.
Oh, I love that. And I hope it's giving someone permission who needs it right now. But very often
Yes.
these episodes do is they'll give people permission for things. Because we
Yes.
all get, I mean, we're all very different. I never want to get caught in the thing of we're all alike. We're not, y'all. Let's be real. But we get caught in many of the
Yeah.
similar contexts. They just
Yeah.
manifest in different ways. So
Yes.
I hope this is giving
Yes.
someone permission to, even if y'all listeners, I don't care how old you are, it is never too late to do what Elizabeth did at that time.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, do it earlier if you can, because it might be earlier, but it's never too late.
It's never too late. And like, I think one of the things that I took from it too is that your experiences are like, you can't, you don't, no one, like when you change your life path, no one holds like Men in Black, like mind racer thing on you and like you lose it. Like you carry that stuff with you and it continues to impact what you do.
Right.
So it's easy to be like, oh, I wasted all that time, or I spent all that time working for this thing and like it was for nothing. And I'm like, no, it wasn't.
Oh, I get that. Do you know how many times that came out of my mouth when I was in the nonprofit and I looked at my past and I was like, I basically have 2 master's degree in the eye, and okay, how do I use that? And then when I started my business, and y'all, some of you watching probably are like, I remember that when I ran the whole clinic as a low vision therapist, I nonprofit, I did a lot of things under my hat. And a lot that I was running the clinic and doing orders and doing these things and not getting to do my low vision therapy. But you know what? I know how to run a business now because I ran their clinic and didn't even see that in the moment. So I love that you said that because it's so very true.
It all comes around, and it's like very handy if you have, like, it's really handy, honestly. Going into a new place can be scary, and you're like, oh, these other people know so much more than me, but then you get to have this unique perspective, and that people who've always been in that one field might not have thought about, which I find is like kind of fun. It's like, well, over on this side of the world, we do it this way. Ever thought about that?
Mind blown.
Mind blown.
And so, Elizabeth, because I know you and I know some of the stuff you're up to in your life, I know that you have not stopped taking bold moves since, because you've pretty much taken them since the day I met you. Your business, leaving like working for someone else so much earlier than most people do, all of that stuff. And so what I know as someone who's always, making bold moves, and again, y'all, it doesn't always mean leaping. Sometimes, for me, it's getting comfortable with the fact that I need a lot more space in my schedule than I've ever been willing to own and acknowledge before. And here we are. That's bold for me. So, but for me, for most of the people I serve, we tend to need to do certain things that might shift to care for ourselves, because if you're not caring for yourself well, gosh, and even sometimes, even when we try, like sometimes I'll do my very best and I'm like, well, I haven't really slept in a week, so I'm starting to feel a little squirrely, so we do our best. But for you, to be doing the stuff you're doing, to be crafting this amazing life that involves serving other people. What are some of your non-negotiables to keep showing up?
Non-negotiables, like sleep and food.
Those would probably be 2 pretty big ones for most people.
Yeah. Are we off book? This is why we don't go off book.
You're doing
my
great.
Non-negotiable, huh?
You're doing great.
Doing great.
Or you could be like, these are 3 things, and I know
Okay.
this process.
Is this my formula? Is this my formula for living a bold
Yes.
life?
Oh, I messed
Okay,
you up and I
cool.
asked it differently, didn't I? I went off.
See, friends, this is why I said I prepared. Because this is how my mind works. I'm like, yes, many wonderful, beautiful ideas. Please ask me questions. My mind's like,
You want to know what's funny though? I always
yeah,
ask people, well, if the word formula doesn't resonate, swap the words. And so I think we're having the divine intervention where the divine's like, Elizabeth was getting a little bit too attached to her plan. And I'm going to have Jen ask the question in a different way to just totally throw a wrench in the mix.
no. And this is why.
I always ask it with the word formula. Except today.
I need keywords.
Except today.
It's all good.
Just
I am a human being who does not do well with being asked questions on the spot. How am I a therapist? I don't know. No. It's great. So I say no a lot. That is my
so glad you're
thing.
saying this. So many people
I
need this
say
permission.
no. Like, legitimately, I had a professor in graduate school who was like my supervisor, like the school liaison for the internship. So it was like you did your internship and you had a class. So that was that professor. And watched over and looked at all of our work and guided that process. She had to come save me from failing an internship because my supervisor did not like that I said no to something that I felt wasn't aligned with my goals. And I got my and I didn't know that my supervisor, the on-site supervisor, technically gave me a failing grade. It wasn't really a failing grade, but it was like, this is a standard you have to meet. And my professor was like, oh God, what happened? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know she had a problem.
Gosh, I can't believe they didn't even come
But
to you and tell you that.
well, that's another podcast.
I was just gonna say that might be another time.
That's another time. But the big piece was that that supervisor really couldn't get over the fact that I had said no. And I found that it was perfectly legitimate for why I said no. And to be honest, I don't regret in her reasonings. I still disagree with because it just wasn't something that I felt was necessary. And I stood up and was just like, no. And so I don't think of me saying no as pessimism necessarily, but it's what
Right.
I, because they're like, oh, you say no a lot, you're kind of
My, my
off-putting, and I'm
guess,
like,
Elizabeth, is for
no.
listeners, you're using no as a boundary to protect
Yes.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes, it's preservation for my own authenticity.
Yeah.
And I know that there's this and I will say, because I hear people use the word authentic, and it has bothered me so much because there are times. Have you ever had something where it's like, we're going to be authentic, and I'm like, well, if you have to announce it, then are you?
Right.
Like that feels weird. It's if
It's kind of like the spiritual person, like, I am so spiritual, and it's
yeah, or
announce
if
that.
it's forced authenticity is not a thing. Can't, yeah.
This is not
So
authentic.
yeah, it's not authentic. If you have to force it, it's not authentic. Oh. So I get, I know there's this idea that being authentic is this great and wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with that. But I think there is this downside to being authentic, that is the downside being the challenges that people may not see. And that I say no a lot and people don't like that. So I have to be okay with saying no, and I have to understand why I'm saying no. And I have to be okay with those things. I have spent plenty of time being a people pleaser. I get that. Totally do that too. And at the same time, I have spent a lot of time pissing people off because I just like can't conform to things very well at times. It's like impossible. Um, like, you know, work interview. We're looking for someone who is flexible in their work. And I'm like, define flexible, because like nonprofit flexible can mean like asking me to do 1,000 things that I can't do and or like shouldn't have to be doing. And like me saying no is like, well, you're just being inflexible. We need you to be flexible. And I've literally said to someone, well, we need you to be flexible. I'm like, you always ask me to be the one to be flexible. And if you keep flexing something, it will break. You'll be flexible.
Yeah.
um, yeah, that turned into HR coming to apologize to me. That was fun. Sometimes I am a
Well, what I
little
love
like I piss
is,
people.
and a lot of people don't think about it this way.
Yeah.
But I love that you're saying it because, like, then this came up in the coaching and leadership training I was in a lot,
Yeah.
where, we're so busy trying to like control the experience someone is having us. Well, I want them to like me. That we
Yeah.
won't say no. But the thing is, when we're like, oh, they're gonna get mad if I say that, and then they're not gonna like me, and I don't like any of that, so I'm gonna say yes. One, I mean, so many things for that, but we're also not giving people the chance to go through their own process of, oh, I didn't like that. No, we rob them of
Yeah.
their chance to grow.
Right. And also like setting those boundaries to where like I say no, they have to do with something, but then like they have to realize that like they can't just take advantage of me all the time, or like they can't expect me to and it's not even necessarily in like a work sort of way. It's also just like societal norms. Like I'm a really terrible liar. I feel like it just makes me really uncomfortable to like lie to people. Maybe it also causes me to avoid stuff, but like we won't get there. But but like if I'm not being truthful to like who I am and like my being, I feel like I'm lying. So like I say no, I'm not going to do it that way. Similarly with the way I wrote my bio, I was like trying to write, I'm like, Elizabeth is an LCSWA who specializes in blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, that's so boring for me. All and like props if that's your bio, no judgment there. But for me to write it was just really hard. So I was like, Elizabeth, how do you want to write it? I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would like to write it as self-aware and like challenge the idea that like a bio, it's a bio and I'm writing it. Why can't it be me? So I, to quote Mythbusters, I reject your reality and substitute my own. And in my world, I am like, I'm going to be me. And this is how I'm going to do it. And it'll be fine. It's all
I
great.
mean, I'll tell you what, when I started my business, I had a lot of time on my hands because I quit my job very unexpectedly. Um, Totally thought I was going to get part-time support and it didn't happen. I've shared that with you, but I had time on my hands, right? And
Yeah.
so I had time and no money yet. And
Yeah.
so
Oh
I
God,
was
that's
like,
the worst.
well, and I also wanted to have like a breakthrough. And so I didn't think that I could figure out how to use WordPress, right? And
Yeah.
that thing made me cry a lot, a lot, a lot. But I built my first website. And how I started my first website was a blog. The Bold thing
Yeah.
started as a blog. It was not a business,
Yeah.
it was a blog because it was an
Yeah.
easier website to build.
Yes.
I kid you not, doing it my own way. I've had websites since then. People do them for me. Things
Yeah.
come from them. I love them. They're beautiful. But to this day, that website that I built myself,
Mm-hmm.
it was no branding and marketing professionalism. It was just like, how do I know what to do? How do I make it simple,
Right.
basic? I used to work with visually impaired people. Formatting matters to me. And
Yeah.
to this day, I have never had more people reach out and say, I love you. You're so real. Your story is powerful. Can I have a discovery session? So sometimes I
So
wonder, what's the point of having a fancy website built for
I
you?
know.
My own
I
did
I
more.
att- I know I attended like I've attended some like marketing and branding stuff, and I understand color is important. Like, yes, psychology of color. Like, you don't have to tell me that I did expressive therapies. Like, I get it. But I thought about the fact that like that's also like kind of pseudoscience. Like, we can't like it's based in culture. Like, in some cultures you wear white to funerals.
Yeah,
Like, it doesn't, it means what you want it to mean.
yeah.
It evokes the things that you want it to evoke. So I decided that like I just was gonna wait to like brand myself. And I was like, I'll just wait and see what my Instagram account looks like after a couple of months, because I bet I'm gonna gravitate to a specific palette of colors that I always gravitate to. And once I look at it, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's where I'm
That
going.
that's where I got my color. Like all of a sudden I looked around and at this point, like water bottle, journal, everything is purple. And I'm like, oh, wait, well, when did this happen? When does everything in my life
Right?
become purple? I didn't try.
Yeah. I know the colors that I gravitate to, and I was like, if I'm doing my own stuff, like I know what I'm gonna choose. Like, just
I love that too. And I love how like what this no and boundary setting, like it just kind of brought us over to this realm of like permission to
yes,
do what you want.
yes. And it like I know that it like sounds like I've listened to my fair share of things. I've read my fair share of things. I'm like, oh, like authenticity, like that's impossible to do. And it's like my authenticity is not someone else's authenticity. Like, when they're being authentic to themselves, I hope to God they don't look like me. Not because I'm like don't want people to emulate me. Like, okay, cool, good luck. Kind of crazy out here, but being authentic to who they am, who they who they are. Like, I'm my therapist once said that I like, the whole like the shapes with the sticky anythings, like square peg round hole sort of feeling.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm not even in the peg toys. I'm like a Tonka truck over like there. Like, I don't even fit with this play set. That's kind of where I realized I was like, well, maybe I'm not the peg play kit. Like, definitely understand
Yeah,
putting the square peg in the round hole. Like, totally speaks to me. But at the same time, I was like, I don't even feel like I'm one of those toys.
I'm
I
over
think I'm just
here
weird.
doing something else.
Let's do with something else.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, saying no and how that just led us to boundaries and protecting self. Being able to say no, and I'm like my branding and marketing person, she would love this conversation because she's kind of launching into a new realm, and
Yeah.
her whole steez is own your weird, and
Yes.
trying to get people out of like the cookie cutter, like everyone doing it the same. And it's like, no, own your weird. What makes you weird? And that
Yes.
was why, 2 photo shoots ago, I was like, I am not buying any new clothes. Why? I
Right.
want people to feel like I could walk out of my website and onto the road. And someone said that
Yes.
once. They were like, I just saw your website. You literally look like you just walked out of it. I think I had the same outfit on.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yes.
I mean, funny you should
Perfect.
do that because that was actually part of my plan.
The people that really know me, like have known me for a really long time, have visited my website and are like, how did you put yourself onto a website? Like, that is who you like.
Yeah.
Anyone who goes and like, if they don't like it, then like it's definitely not for them, because that is who you are. I was like, thank you. I cried a lot,
And that is
but
going to
thank
make
you.
your life so much easier because you're not going to have these conversations with people that you're like, what? No, this is not going to work. Not us together. No.
Right, right. I'm like, don't force it. Don't force it. Like, it's not good for either of us. Like,
Well,
yeah.
and so for the next question, I can kind of already imagine maybe a little bit of this answer, but we'll see what you think. So
Mm,
again, y'all, like whether you make the move or not, It's totally up to you. I'm never really concerned with what my clients choose. It's where they're choosing from. Is it
Yeah.
empowered? Is it not? And so
Yeah.
if we rewind back, maybe life was different. Maybe stepdad and mom didn't support. Maybe you got freaked out and you didn't actually ever have the conversation. And let's just imagine this, right? Because you staying wouldn't be that different from what most people are doing, right? In a job, in a
Yeah.
college program,
Right.
in something. So this is something that people are doing all the time.
Yes.
Where do you think
Yeah.
your path might have led you to the here and now if you followed it, didn't try to leave it, just stuck with it because you thought you had to?
So I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
And I know when I left my junior year, we had these really horrifying like reviews that we had to go to. God, what were they called? I have erased it from my brain what those things were called, but it was like you sit there with your little notebook and the entire faculty sits there and like you talk about your progress and your goals and you cry a lot. Really great for teenagers to go through.
Sounds like it.
Welcome to the art world. Ooh. So critiques, I know the visual artists call them critiques. I can't remember what they were called for drama. Again, I erased it, but I know my plans prior to leaving. I was like, for the summer, I was like, I would like to do like not necessarily be like an actor and be doing Shakespeare in the Park. Sorry, Tromsness, love you.
Yeah.
But I was like, I think I'm gonna be a props master, like making the props and like maybe do like a stand-up comedian on the side. So I'd probably be that now, maybe. Uh I don't know. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
always been
sure.
kind of feisty. Um, so I imagine if that like, and I probably would be really good at it. Like, I'd probably be great. Um, Eventually I'd probably decide I wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
Would I? I don't know. That's a great question. But I will say that like my first that was a big bold move to make as a kid, like as
Yeah,
basically,
this.
and it turned out fine. And I think I just kind of started a pattern for myself. Like I've quit a lot of dreams. Again, you get to keep everything you've done. You get to bring it with you. You don't really quit. You just
Right.
move to something new. I don't really like the whole like quit. I mean,
I don't
unless you
care.
need to quit. Like if you need to quit, that's fine. Don't take it with you. You don't have to take it with you, but you can. You
Yeah.
can. Um, so like I quit my dream multiple times over. I spent a little time like reeling in fear about what I've done. I'm like, oh God, what have I done? Jenna's seen this. Oh God, what have I done? What have I done? And then I come back out and I'm swinging. I'm like, all right. I took my little fear retreated into the fear, sat down with it, was like, all right, what are we afraid of? And I came back out. I mean, I accepted a college scholarship like really late in the process. So I actually went to school to a college sight unseen and even had to, after I accepted the scholarship, I had to Google where it was because I didn't know where the school was. It was in Boston.
Oh, that's how you got to Boston.
That's how I got to Boston. Not completely my choice. But I was like, I mean, it was in line with what I wanted at the time, and it still has served me. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to do this big thing too. Oh, all right, here we go. Um, but I look back and I think like maybe I would still like maybe props master would be a great career for me. Like not doubting it. Um, I'd probably still do that. Not stand-up comedian. Um, mm, I'd like I know that I'd like want to do like the college circuit and like I really like sleeping in my bed and having a bidet. Like I just don't want to tour. So
And
at
this is,
least I know what I want.
where sometimes not taking the move leads us into dire straits. For you, what we can,
Yeah.
at least what we can fathom now, at least we don't foresee that, but
Yeah.
you might have went into something that never really fulfilled you. You might have went at some point to where you are now. We don't know. But what I
I
do,
don't know.
the world needs people who are experts in ADHD and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it's just so much more impactful when you can say, hey, I do the work too. I've done the work. It works.
Yeah.
Do this.
And I was actually like chatting last night, and I, told my partner I'm gonna talk about like my move out of governor school, and he's like, "You're not gonna talk about ADHD? Like, this is business opportunity." I was like, "I don't want to talk about ADHD the whole time. That's all I do all the time." I was like,
Well, and I love that you
people need
talk
to
about
see
people and also too
me.
for like business opportunity, right?
Yeah,
Half of my business opportunities don't come through actual business stuff. It just comes from me being a big silly weirdo wherever I am. And I'm like, oh, you want to do business?
yeah.
Cool.
And I was like, if people want a therapist, okay, it's great. I do a lot of ADHD stuff. I got lived experience. I know a lot about ADHD. Yeah, I do. Because I hyper focus on learning. Um, and I love to learn. Ask me about birds. But I, but I, I know that like as a therapist, there's got to be other sides to me. I am a human. I like multiple things, and like only doing one thing is like not very fun. And so I want all the things. Give me everything. I do all the stuff. But yeah, I think, and I think too that shows how freaking ADHD I am, because I'm like, I have thoroughly researched the migratory patterns of the birds that come to my backyard. Um, yeah, and I'm not gonna try to be an ornithologist. It was fun.
Oh, this is awesome. There's so much fun gold in here. We traveled everywhere.
We traveled
We
all
could travel
over.
more places. Give us more time, y'all. Give us more time. But
Oh Lord, I can go
you
everywhere.
you like every guest that I've had. I know, right? Like, because I've got the ADHD brain too. By the end, we're gonna be like, where did we start? What was our topic?
How did we get to the Byzantine Empire again? Do you know anything about it? No, no. Why are we
We should
talking
actually
about
do
it?
that once just to see how many things we can cover, like unsurprisingly.
Well, no, because then we'll get stuck on one thing and get really deep on that one topic. Either way, it'll be fun.
Oh, this is fun. I'm gonna like when I share this interview, I'm gonna be like, this is just silly, y'all. You just watch it if you want to have a good day. Okay, it's
Watch it if you want to have a
fun,
good day.
silly, and amazing.
Like
And
playing with my fidget toys the whole time. Like,
of course, so much amazingness in here though too. Like
yes.
all of every guest I've had, just a wealth of generosity, a wealth of information. And so you may say something you already said, but you may want to share something new. But if you were going to leave everyone with like one piece of like, maybe you've got like a favorite piece of wisdom you always give, or maybe in the moment you're just like, I'm channeling this. Anything
I'll
come up?
resist the urge to talk about your 5 things method, Elizabeth. If you're stuck, just start with 5 things. If you're trying to clean, all right, that's not my sage piece of wisdom.
Could be for
um,
some though.
some for
Y'all,
some,
if
yes,
you're getting stuck on moving, reach out to Elizabeth for that piece of sage wisdom because I've heard it come up in group before and it's good.
yes. I've gotten multiple feedback, so that's their favorite thing. I'm like, um, so okay, my big piece is don't be bold alone. Um,
Hmm.
because being bold can be very frightening and overwhelming. And I think it can be really misleading to that like boldness is this like solitary act. Because we like images of like trailblazers and executives, and like
Yeah.
they're always so singular. And like I'm sitting here by myself in this office, and I'm like, no, 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 no. Like I would be nowhere without like my mentor who's been with me since like my divine intervention happened. I blame her. And they were amazing for me to work with. But I my really amazing therapist, my mom, my partners, professors, advisors, all these people, it would be really inauthentic of me to say that I like never doubt myself, because I do it a lot, like just yesterday even. um and having that support is so important and part of the process, like having people in your corner. Because I think being bold means like having ideas that like sort of intimidate people.
Yeah.
um and just a little bit. And so I think I've learned to like surround myself with people who embrace that part of me instead of like running from it. And the ones that run, I'm like not that mad about. Like that's okay. Like I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Um, and I'm not everybody's style. But I do know that I am someone's style. And I think it's because I've surrounded myself with people who were like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's been
I
my
love this last piece of sage wisdom, obviously, since it is literally my job to partner with
right.
people and be on their bold journey. But
Yes.
what you said means a lot to me because I was the one where in high school, and I'm watching time. So y'all, Elizabeth and I are a
Yeah.
little over. You got a few minutes, another minute, we close out. You know, like my mom tried to get me into therapy in high school and all that stuff. And I had a
Yeah.
story for a long time. I have to do it alone. I mean, it was some of my first
Right.
words. Like I was born this way. And it took
Yeah.
me well into my 20s to be willing to get support at all.
Yeah.
And y'all, as someone who was fiercely independent to the point of detriment, I will say I have found, and I never would have thought this, and that's why I always like to share this with people. I am more independent by being willing to receive help. Who would have thought?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Who would have
Yes.
thought? I am more
Like,
independent now than I ever was before because I get so much help.
yes. I know. I I was one of the like I was in the early batch of like Pinterest stuff. Like I remember when you had to like request to join Pinterest and had to get like a referral or whatever to join. And I remember looking through it and thinking, "Oh no, this is bad," because it gave this constant do it yourself, do it yourself, do it yourself, do it yourself mindset. And I was like, oh no. Like I loved it because like I craft and I like got ideas and like recipes are great, but there was this idea of just like this constant do it yourself. And I'm like, no, because someone else can help you and they might be able to do it better. And that's okay if they do it better. And like, why not have someone who can do it better help you? Um, I hired someone to help me do my room. Like I I just like don't go about it alone because I feel like the people who like seem like they are going about it alone probably aren't
Yeah.
because they have that support and like ugh,
Well,
I'm so glad that I learned to accept help.
and more
I
people when they see people like C-suite, if that's their goal, I'm like, they all have coaches and therapists and support. I mean, more and more now, right? Because they find that when they get up
yes.
there, if they got up there and they're alone, they can't stay up there if they stay alone.
Right. Right. It's
You
like
might
I
get
know they
there
say
alone,
it's like
but
it's
you won't stay alone.
that whole like it's lonely at the top. I was like, okay, well in some cases it can be, but like should it be?
Or at the top, that's where we
Yeah.
could just say penthouse party.
Yeah. Or
Invited.
like you don't have to be at the top.
And you don't have to be lonely.
And you don't have to be lonely. My God, just surround yourself with people and use the internet if you need to. Gosh darn it.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for this. This was
Oh, thank you.
informative, generous, and fun. And what I love about these is no matter how much someone chooses to watch of this, they're going to get what they need, even if it's just a 5-minute clip.
Yes.
And so y'all, my final request whenever we leave this, if you're watching this and you just think of someone's face or their name, I have heard really cool stuff where people just see the right episode, they get the right message, and it goes on to give them permission to do stuff or
Mhm.
not make them feel alone. So if there's anyone for you that that might need to see this, just give it a share. And maybe something Elizabeth and I said here could just start shaking up the trajectory or encourage someone to ask for help. Who knows? But if one
Do
person
it.
gets something out of this, job is done.
Woo. Yes, that's the way we go. I can be your therapist if you're in North Carolina. Otherwise, hit me up next month or this month. I don't know whenever this is posted. If it's October, if it is October when you're watching this, I should be relaunching something soon. If it's not October when
Oh,
you're
it will
watching
be,
this,
because
hopefully I've done it.
well, this is gonna go out next week on the 6th, so we're gonna be
Ooh,
sharing that soon. So
okay.
I'm gonna say bye to you all now, and then Elizabeth,
Yes.
I'll say bye to you. We'll see if I can
Goodbye.
do this right. I swear Zoom used to have like an end button somewhere else, because I keep like hanging up the whole call instead of hitting record.
Oh no.
Not though. I love you all so much. Thank you for watching this show. Please share it with
Bye.
anyone who needs to see it. And thank you, love.
Oh, thank you. It was great to be part of this.
I had so much fun.
Yes.
I'll see y'all soon.